I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock, and there's a lot of questions out there about the behaviors of the rich and elite in our country and around the world. George Soros and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, and why the heck is Bill Gates buying all this farmland? What is this a Green Acres move or something, or is there something more nefarious at play? Seamus Bruner is one of the chief investigators at the Government Accountability Institute. That's the Peter Schweitzer shop that really investigates all the stories that the mainstream media refuses to. And his brand new book is called Controligarchs, exposing the billionaire class, their secret deals, and the globalist plot to dominate your life. That sounds terrifying, Seamus. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry, Julie. Great to be with you.
So let's start with Bill Gates, because it is something, you hear a lot of conspiracy theories out there and a lot of, people who will tell you that he's got this grand plan to control the world's food supply and make us all eat Soylent Green or something. But it is weird that he's making, there's no denying it. He's making ginormous purchases of American farmland.
Yeah, certainly. And that was really the impetus behind this book, is to separate the fact and the fiction. You hear all these kind of crazy things out there. And you know us at the Government Accountability Institute, we follow the money. And so that's what we did for Bill Gates and the rest of these guys. Regarding the food takeover, it is a big problem. What we unearthed here was this Microsoft strategy that Bill Gates seems to have dusted off from the mid-'90s, called Embrace, Extend, Extinguish, where Microsoft would embrace an industry, they'd enter into a space, they'd extend their reach within that industry, and eventually they would extinguish the competition and give themselves a monopoly. Well, that's what Bill Gates appears to be doing with the farmland. First, he buys up all the land, he buys more of it, extends his reach, he starts investing in these new synthetic fertilizer companies, he invests in the genetically modified seeds, and eventually the genetically modified or patented proteins. That would be the fake meats like Beyond Meats and Impossible Foods. Yeah. And we're right now seeing the extinguish phase. And just ask any farmer, if it's getting harder and harder to run their business, that would be through the regulations, the climate change regulations. You've got congresswomen like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who wants to ban cattle. Guess what? That helps Bill Gates's fake meat ambitions. Right. And
so this is all under the guise of climate change and Green New. Basically, Bill Gates is implementing the Green New Deal without any bothering with legislation. But you compare this to what he did with Microsoft back in the 90s. There are antitrust laws against that sort of thing. When he tried to dominate the browser industry and squash Netscape, that's when regulators came in and actually forced a breakup. So, last I checked, the USDA is a pretty big entity in this town. You start driving past the building and it goes on for 5 blocks down by the mall. So doesn't the government have some say in this? Isn't there anyone looking out for those small farmers?
Oh, well, that's what's so brilliant about claiming to save the planet. Nobody wants to stop you if you're saving the planet. And Microsoft didn't say they were saving the planet back then. That's what most people forget about Bill Gates. He's totally rebranded. He was once this cutthroat monopolist where people on the left and right sort of reviled him as, just being this greedy guy. And then all of a sudden he sets up his philanthropic foundation. What's really interesting is since he set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, every dollar he gives to charity, his own charity, he gets $2 in return. And so that's through plays like in the agriculture industry and other industries. Of course, he's investing in health, biotech. The food is just one industry where Bill Gates is using this strategy.
Well, you really weave this together. It's not just Bill Gates that you talk about in this book. One of the people that you talk about is someone who I don't think a lot of Americans are really familiar with, and that is Klaus Schwab. And again, one thing that you have connected the dots here with all of these people, whether it's Bezos or Soros or even, and again, Klaus Schwab, they're all on this green movement. They love DEI. They want funding, especially COVID funding, to be connected to furthering these goals. Tell us a little bit about Klaus Schwab, and I'm sorry to go off a little bit on Bill Gates, but I think it really is interesting how this Klaus Schwab figure, he wants to reimagine the world. He saw COVID as this opportunity for a reset, and Bill Gates also agrees with this.
Yeah, Julie, you're absolutely right. Klaus Schwab is a very dangerous figure. I mean, he sort of started out as this academic.
Mm-hmm.
He is from Germany and went to Harvard, where he studied under the late Henry Kissinger.
Mm-hmm.
And just a few years after getting to know the godfather of globalism, Henry Kissinger, that's when he sets up his World Economic Forum in Davos. And Davos only had $6,000 approximately in seed funding, and it has grown to $300 million plus in annual revenues just to the forum, which Klaus Schwab runs. So it is blown up. It's huge. Everybody's now heard of it, especially since the pandemic. And you're right to key in on the Great Reset, because, you know, you hear it all the time that the pandemic is in the past. Why are we talking about COVID? COVID is over. No, COVID was, in the pandemic response especially, was a blueprint for the future. That's according to Klaus Schwab. He says we need to use this pandemic reset as a way to rethink everything from capitalism. He wants to get rid of free market capitalism and put in a new system. And all of the people who go to Davos are on board with this, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part. You know, there may be a few exceptions, but they go year after year. They keep giving him the money,
mm-hmm.
and they want to use climate change next as the next crisis to take away your liberties, to take away your freedoms, whether it's by banning gas-powered vehicles like Gavin Newsom in California has announced. I mean, even your stoves are under attack, your gas stoves, and then also the fertilizers. I mean, so it's not just Bill Gates taking over the farms. It's worldwide. The Dutch farmers, the Canadian farmers, they're all up in arms too.
Well, and that's part of why we saw the election go in a radically new direction in the Netherlands over the Dutch farmer issue, amongst other issues. In the book Controligarchs, you also point out how Mark Zuckerberg is reinvesting money in artificial intelligence and virtual reality to get people even more addicted to his apps like Facebook than they already are addicted. I'd love to get into the detail of it. I only got about a minute left here, Seamus Bruner. What can we do about it? I know that there are some elected officials who are trying to call this out when it comes to George Soros and Gates, et cetera, but they're shouted off the stage and they're mocked as conspiracy theorists. Are they cutting through? Are they actually making a difference? Can they?
Well, it's not over yet. I believe we still have time to fight back. It's time to wake up. It's time to spread the word. It's time to get these facts in the hands of as many people as possible, because one thing we know about the supranational organizations like the World Economic Forum and the UN is when people get wise to their plans and start pushing back, they are forced to recalibrate, reassess, and come back at it another way. Yeah. And when people wake up, they don't go back to sleep.
It's like Bond villain stuff.
It really is.
And as usual, as everything that comes out of the Government Accountability Institute and Peter Schweitzer's shop, which Seamus Bruner is one of the lead investigators there, it's meticulously researched and footnoted. It's a very important book. Grab it now. It's called Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, Their Secret Deals, and the Globalist Plot to Dominate Your Life. Seamus, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back, and give Peter Schweitzer our best.
Okay, thank you, guys.